So my plan is I want to do one of the proofs from the review sheet, and I did say we would revisit that Kahoot. So we will do that. I probably won't spend as much time going over each of the questions from Kahoot, but we'll try to give that another shot. Maybe we'll get through the whole thing, but I do want to go over one of the proofs from the review sheet. That way, I know you have enough, uh, enough review at least from the stream that we can go over. So I wanted to go over the coordinate geometry proof because we haven't seen them in a while. We've been doing a whole bunch of these kind of proofs. So if you want an answer to that, maybe next week. Remember what I said yesterday, and I'll say it again now, is I'm not going to be streaming every day, but I will try to just start the stream. I probably won't even send out a remind. I'll just be on at 11, kind of as like a office hours, if you want to call it that, just so you guys can ask questions and whatnot, whatever you really want. I'll be on. You can ask questions. You can see questions from the review sheet. Because I know some people who follow, they get a notification that I'm starting the stream, but by no means is it going to be required. I won't post those to YouTube or anything. It's really just for extra help. I will post the assignment on Google Classroom, which I did start, and I invited everyone. So please make sure that you join that. I am going to be posting the assignment, and then I'll send out a remind through probably by Monday that it's up and you're going to take the test. But remember, I'm not grading it. It's basically extra credit, but I would like everyone to do it. That way I know you can do an assignment. You can get an assignment from Google Classroom, whether you do it on a separate sheet of paper or you can print it out, whichever, doesn't matter. And I know most of you yesterday said you could not print, and that's fine. Just have the test up on Google Classroom and just number them through, on a separate sheet of paper. And I want you to take a picture of your work and then submit it on Google Classroom. So that is really what I would like you to do for that assignment. And that's kind of what we're doing for our spring break. So I mentioned yesterday, and I'm sure you've probably heard from your other classes, that we're going to you're continuing through spring break, but we're going to take it a little bit easier, not be as strenuous. So really we're using the week to get familiar with Google Classroom, at least in this context, because you might be using it a little bit differently, because you're not really typing things out on a Google Doc and submitting it. You're taking pictures of it, and I'm pretty sure you all have access to a phone. It's probably easiest to make sure you have the app on your phone. If there's any questions or if you come into a technical difficulty, please contact me because I can most likely help you through that. Any questions on kind of what that plan is? You'll probably get a bunch of reminds from me saying a lot of this stuff again, and I'm going to put all that stuff on Google Classroom. Your job right now is to make sure that you are on that Google Classroom. Everyone got an invite through their school email. So make sure that you have that. How do you get into this Google Classroom? Access your school email. If you access your school email, you should see the invite in there. I definitely recommend, especially if you have the app, turn on notifications. Turn on notifications for let Google Classroom send you notifications. That way, if I post anything on there, you will get notified. Otherwise, you have to manually check it each time. But download Google Classroom, get the app, and then make sure your notifications are enabled. If you don't have Google Classroom downloaded on a device and you didn't get a notification, check your school email. All right. We got quite a bit of people today. That's good. We got 20 people today. That's good. 21. You did not get an email. Did you check your school email? I can see everyone who joined. Let's see. You are invited. So you are right here. But if you see your name kind of grayed out, that means you have not yet joined. All right, let's start the first review question that I'd like to go over. If you guys run into any issues, just throw them in the chat. You got the invite. All right, great. Look at your profile picture. I'm gonna do it really quick. I agree. It is amazing. So far, Ryan's winning that. All right, the coordinates to triangle ABC are -2, 3. We have 2, 6, and 2, 0. We're going to prove that the triangle is isosceles. You are going to see a question just like this on that assignment that I put onto Google Classroom. So A is -2, 3. B is 2, 6. And C is 2, 0. So we're going to prove that this triangle is isosceles. So in this case, we are going to use the distance formula. We're going to prove that. In this case, you could probably just eyeball it and say that, you know, AB and B and AC are the ones that are congruent. You can also just, you don't have to do distance formula to BC. You can just count and you can just count how many units it is because it is just a vertical line. So there's no reason why you can't count that. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. It is 6 units long. But that's probably not the side that you need anyway. You need AB and AC. So we're going to do the distance formula to those right here. Oops. So distance formula. We'll do AB first, which is going to be -2 minus 2 plus AC. Oh, sorry, no. The y coordinates. 6 minus 3 squared. I'll add a subscript to this as well because I'm doing the distance to A, B. So right here we're going to get -4. -4 squared is 16. Plus the other one, 6 minus 3 is 3. 3 squared is 9. This one actually ends up being a perfect square because 16 plus 9 is the square root of 25, which works out to be exactly 5 units long, which is great. So this right here, 5 units long. Now we want to make sure that AC is also 5 units long. So we're going to do the distance to AC now. So it's going to be the square root of, we're going to have pretty much the same thing here, -2 minus 2. Square it, and then 3 minus 0. We're going to square that. So -2 minus 2, same thing. It's going to be -4. We're going to square that. We get 16. 3 minus 0 is 3. We're going to square that. You get 9. So you get the square root of 25, which again is 5. We can bracket these off. We're going to write congruent. And then we're going to say why this is an isosceles triangle. So you just got to write a sentence. Triangle ABC is isosceles since two sides are congruent. So hopefully this rings a bell. We did a lot of this stuff last week, and we did more of the other types of proof this week. But like I said, you're going to see exactly something like this on that assignment that I post on Google Classroom on Monday. That assignment is, it's going to be a right triangle instead of an isosceles triangle. But because we've done a bunch of these in our notes, utilize your notes and see exactly how we did them. I think it'll be very fair. There are going to be two more parts, so now we have to actually get into the rhombus part of it. We want to find the coordinates that are going to make this into a rhombus. And there's a few ways you can do this. Easiest way, well, first and foremost, if you have to make it a rhombus, you have to have a perpendicular diagonal. So I just kind of sketched this line to give us a visual that this point, P, has to be on this line. And we also got to make sure that all sides are congruent. So if you start kind of drawing in lines and kind of imagining, one of these has to be the congruent one. And the best way to do that is make sure that it's going to give you the same distance. So we kind of use this slope method. If you look right over here, you went up 1, 2, 3. You went up 3 and then over 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 3 over 4, which is kind of like I'm taking a slope, up 3 over 4. You're going to do the same thing, but you want to go down 3 and over 4. So it's not necessarily the negative reciprocal slope because we don't necessarily need to make it perpendicular. But if you go up 3 and over 4 again, you will get the same distance. But in this case, down 3 and over 4 because it will be the same distance. So down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This right here is the only spot you could put a point. So when you connect from B to that point, it's going to be the same length. If you put it anywhere else, you're going to have, you're definitely not going to see the rhombus. You're going to see another shape. And if you put it on that line, you're probably going to see something like a kite kind of shape. But that is the quadrilateral that we want. That definitely looks like a rhombus with all the sides congruent. So we got to place the point here. P is, where did we place that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over 6, up 3. Now we're going to use that coordinate to finish up the proof. And we're going to prove that our quadrilateral is in fact a rhombus. And if you remember how to do that, you have to prove it's a parallelogram first. But you've done some of the work already. We've done 2 of the sides already. We just need to do the other 2 sides. I do like to write the sides that I've done already. In this case, AB. I'm just going to write AB first. I'm not going to redo the whole calculation because I've already done it. So I'm just going to put the distance to AB as 5. But because I have to do a parallelogram first, we're going to do this line segment with it. That way we can show that opposite sides are congruent. And we already know what this length has to be. It has to be 5. Just make sure that when we do this distance formula, that CP does in fact give us 5. So the distance to, what did I say, CP? Is equal to the square root. This one you have to do the calculation to. C is 2, 0. So it's 6 minus 2 squared plus 0 minus 3 squared. And then we're going to do that calculation right there. We get 16 plus 9 again, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted. Whoops. Equals the square root of 25, which equals 5. So now I'm going to bracket these off. And then we'll put that they are congruent. And then we're going to do the other 2 sides. Again, I'm going to write down, just rewrite the distance to AC because I know it's already 5. And then we're going to do the distance to BP, which is the square root. What was B? 2, 6? So if it was 2, 6, this one's going to be 6 minus 2 squared plus 6 minus 3 squared. How did I get the coordinate for P? There's a few ways we can do it. We get the coordinate from P. Let me erase some of the stuff I have, because this can be tricky. First and foremost, if we want to make it a rhombus, you should agree that it has to be on this line right here. Correct? Because it has to be perpendicular diagonal. So there's no other place we can place the point. And actually, here's probably the best way to do it. So I'll actually do it in a different way instead of explaining it the same exact way. If a rhombus we know is a parallelogram, and the slope to this line is up 3 over 4. Up 3 over 4. That's the slope to AB. 3 over 4. And in a parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel. So starting from point C, what if I just go up 3 over 4? And you should get the same exact line, because you're going up 3 units over 4 units. You're following the same slope. So you'd go up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're going to land exactly where we placed point P. That's a different way you can find point P, because you're forcing the opposite sides to be parallel. So there's definitely a bunch of different ways you can do it, as long as you know it's going to be a parallelogram. All right, awesome. Finishing the calculation, we're going to get, again, the same thing. 6 minus 2 is 4. We're going to square that. We get 16. You get 3 squared, which is 9, which is the square root of 25, which is 5. So again, you have these are congruent. You now have opposite sides congruent. And you have the fact that every single side is 5 units long. That ensures that it is now a rhombus. But you need 2 sentences. One to state why it's a parallelogram. So make sure that you say quadrilateral we do not need an explanation. I mean, I don't want to say that they can't ask that. In this specific question, they do not. Because of the language that they're using. There's 3 questions here. The first part said, prove it's an isosceles triangle. So we went through the entire coordinate geometry proof. But part B just says, find and state. Doesn't say describe how you found it. Doesn't say justify your answer. Doesn't say explain. State your answer is the best or is the easiest way to represent an answer. It is just an answer. No work is required, because they use the word state, which is literally just put your answer. So you do not need to explain why it is. If they said state the coordinates and explain how you got it, then yes, we would have been explaining. Again, with the explanation, quadrilateral. BPC is a parallelogram. Since opposite sides are parallel. Oh, sorry, that is wrong. It is wrong because I did not show parallel. We haven't done opposite sides congruent in a while, so it's easy to get into that habit. But we showed that they were congruent because we used distance. So we want to make sure we use the correct symbol. So I'm just fixing my symbol, making sure that we said it is congruent. Now we need one additional sentence to say why it is a rhombus. So now we can say that parallelogram ABPC is a rhombus since all sides are congruent. That was just additional practice on the coordinate geometry proofs. Like I said, you'll see one of each proof on that on the test that I'm going to post on Google Classroom. But that way you have enough on the review sheet. Like I said, these questions right here, I did say we would do the Kahoot, so I will stay true to my word. These questions right here, if you want to try them over the weekend, I will be, like I said, I'll be on stream on Monday, but it won't be required, so I'm not going to send out a remind. I'll just treat it as office hours, extra help, kind of coming in. And if you want to see these, that would be the time we could see these on the review sheet. And that way you'll actually get to see the test, too. You might get to see, it's like, oh, this question actually might be useful for this question on the test. So let me hop in and, learn how to do that. And I'll be more than happy in helping you guys out. So that's kind of the plan for that. But with that, probably best now to, however you played Kahoot before, it's probably your best bet. Again, you don't have to participate, especially if you're operating on a single device. If you're just using like a phone, for example, I know this can get pretty difficult. But, feel free to try it out. Why not? I'm not going to go over the answers as in-depth as I did before. That way we can go through the entire thing. I'm just going to pull up Kahoot really quick right now. What if we don't come back on April 15th? Were you here yesterday, Chris? I explained most of kind of what is going on. I personally don't think we will be back on the 15th. I think I think we're going to be quarantined a little bit longer than April 15th. So I mentioned yesterday that I'm going to be posting the new unit after the spring break. So I think it was like April 14th. I'm going to be posting the entire new unit onto Google Classroom. That way you can do the notes. Oh, sorry, that's really small. That should be better. But that way you can get the notes on Google Classroom. You can print them out if you have a printer. If you don't, you'll just have to use the notes that are there and then do everything on a separate sheet of paper, because things are not going to get mailed out until a little bit later, unfortunately. But while everyone else kind of trickles in, we'll wait for everyone. How are your other classes going? Haven't seen you guys in a while, so. You guys doing good? Enjoying remote learning? Want to come back? No. I know what? Not enjoying this? Want to come back? You miss school so much you're dying. I definitely miss being there. That's for sure. All right, there's now 16 people in the stream. There was 20. Is everyone who wants to play in? Because there's about... Is everyone in the Kahoot that wants to participate in the Kahoot? If you're still trying to join, just throw something in chat so I don't start the game without you. Being in school makes it so much easier, but things are still going okay. Here, go for you. Any of your family members can play too. That is completely okay. Let's do it. I definitely recommend having that reference sheet out. That's really helpful. Just remember, with these, make sure that you have enough information to determine it's a parallelogram. The online school sucks. It's not ideal. I mean, this has definitely been tough. Especially because I'm sure you're doing something different in every single class. I know Mr. Bunker is now doing Twitch as well, so maybe that makes it easier. I'm personally liking this way. I think it's working decently. You like online? Well, yeah, I mean, you got to sleep till what, 10:55, you said? Benefits of online school. Alright, I got 11 people. And no one said anything in chat about they're trying to get in. So in about 30 seconds, I will start unless I am told otherwise. Everything is terrible. Oh, no. I know why. Because we're not practicing softball, Abby. That's why everything is terrible. Awesome. It's interesting, but you don't like it. All right, that's 12 people. Looks like, and no one has said anything, and I think I've given a good amount of time. We're going to get started. Like I said, unless you really want to see one, me going over it, I'll do so. All right. A quadrilateral that has diagonals bisecting each other would be all right, we got 9 people so far who've answered. I made sure I made the questions long enough because we are on a slight delay, about 5 seconds. So I want to make sure that everyone has enough time. All right, let's see how we did. Awesome. Awesome results on that. Diagonals bisecting each other is definitely one of the properties of a parallelogram for sure. Let's take a look at the next question. A quadrilateral has diagonals congruent would be don't let this one trick you. A 2-minute delay? If you have like a massive delay, try refreshing the page. Sometimes that does help. All right, congruent diagonals. This is a tricky one. A few people picked a rhombus, which it's a property of a rectangle. But remember, there's not enough information about it being a parallelogram, and that's what you need first, and that's why it's not a rectangle. Even though that is a property of a rectangle, make sure you have enough information to say why it is a parallelogram. All right, question 3. A quadrilateral that has opposite sides parallel and diagonals perpendicular would be what? Is your brother able to play? All right, let's see what we got. Awesome. 8 people got that right. I feel like less people are answering the questions. But so far, so good. That question was really good. Next one. A quadrilateral that has all sides congruent is classified as what? I miss like the cheers at the end of a question. I don't get to hear those in class. It's always about those loud cheers at the end of the question. A job at Water Safari. Well, that's cool. Ooh, rhombus. So although, I think we've talked about this one. We actually had this one last time we played Kahoot. Yes, that's a property of a rhombus only, but remember, that's enough information to say why it's a parallelogram, because if all sides are congruent, that means opposite sides are congruent. And if the opposite sides are congruent, it is a parallelogram. And if all sides are congruent, it is a rhombus. That's a tricky one because they're trying to make you think there's not enough information with a parallelogram, but there is, in fact, enough. Not enough information to prove why it is a rectangle. That is why we cannot classify it as a square. All right, let's take a look. Abby's in the lead. Banya is in second. Morgan is in third. And it's really close between all of them. Let's take a look at the next one. It says, a quadrilateral that has perpendicular diagonals is classified as what? Your large thumbs clicked the wrong answer. Maybe it was the right answer. Let's take a look. So quadrilateral has perpendicular diagonals, classified as cannot be determined. Again, this is one of those, yes, that is a property of a rhombus. And that's why this one's tricky. But perpendicular diagonals may not be a rhombus because there's not enough information to show that it is a parallelogram. So it always falls back to the parallelogram part. Is that enough information to be a parallelogram? And if it isn't, it's always going to be can't be determined. If you had something to tell you why it's a parallelogram, then yes, absolutely, it would be a rhombus. We'll do a few more. So we got about 5 minutes left, but let's see this next one. It says a parallelogram that has perpendicular and congruent diagonals is classified as what? Let's see. Very good. A square. Now, normally, this would be the people who chose cannot be determined. You probably were on the right track, but this question throws in a little kind of a curveball at you by saying that we know it's a parallelogram. The question reads, a parallelogram that has perpendicular and congruent diagonals. If that word were quadrilateral, then the green one would be correct, because then you can't classify it as a parallelogram. But because that parallelogram piece is there, the perpendicular makes it a rhombus, congruent diagonals makes it a rectangle, therefore it's all three, and we have ourselves a square. All right. Ooh, it's close for the first two. All right, a quadrilateral that has opposite angles congruent is classified as what? This one should be pretty easy. If we were to take the test at school, would we be allowed to use the quadrilateral property reference sheet? No. If we were in school through this unit under normal circumstances, no, I would not. I would have you memorize those properties because those are very important. Because you don't get that for the Regents. But feel free to use it for the assignment that I post on Monday. But that reference sheet is kind of the most important thing from the unit. All right, let's see if we can get perfect 10 out of 10 on this one. Let's see. Awesome. Thought we would. Quadrilateral has opposite angles congruent. Parallelogram, absolutely. All right. This one says a rectangle that has perpendicular diagonals is classified as what? All right, and after this question, we'll do one more question, and then I'll just end it with a few announcements, and then we will be done. But we'll do one more question after this. All right, we got a square. Good, because we already know it's a rectangle. So it actually cannot be determined, because we know it's a rectangle. The question says it's a rectangle. And a rectangle with perpendicular diagonals means it is all three. All right, and this is going to be the question we will end with. It says a quadrilateral that has congruent diagonals is what? I think we might have seen this one before. I don't know. I think we saw it. And if we saw it, that means we should know it. But just as we're finishing this question, for the people who are still here, remember, Google Classroom, get signed up in there. If you haven't, make sure notifications are on with whatever device you're using. Otherwise, make sure you check it frequently. And yeah, I'll post that assignment on Monday. And if you have questions on it, like I said, I'll be around. Feel free to email me, send me messages on Remind, send me questions. Of course, I'll be around to help you guys. Yeah. And what I really want to see is you guys are able to post something on Google Classroom, because I know posting math assignments on Google Classroom, online math course, not the easiest thing to do. All right, and this one is congruent diagonals cannot be determined. Very good. That does not tell me any information about it being a parallelogram, so I cannot do anything. All right. But that will conclude for today. Let's see the results. Looks like Abby, you held the lead. And Banyo, who is Banyo? They were at a very close second. And Morgan has come in third. Sam, that's what I thought.